Welcome back. In Chapter 2, we unpacked a case study through which we're going to demonstrate how to build a data-driven supply chain from a typical business context. We're now going into the nitty-gritties of building the foundational model, in which we're going to inject implementable data-driven concepts to finally transform it into a fully fledged, data-driven supply chain model. We will start with unpacking the key elements of the supply chain setup of the business described in the case study, then dive into building our foundational model that is eventually going to lead us to the end game of unearthing the optimal, data-driven supply chain model. Let's get into it. So as we discussed in Chapter 2, our case study involves a business called the Food Corner, which is essentially a connector between consumers and small businesses looking for cheaper food inputs, and small and non-mainstream farmers and food producers looking for access to distribution and retail avenues for their yields and production inputs. The idea is to offer economies of scale discounts for pooled bulk orders for those sourcing inputs, as well as to offer guaranteed demand, and a simpler, more accessible, distribution and retail avenue for the food suppliers. Now, in terms of the Food Corner's supply chain setup and context, there are 5 groups of people that execute the business's supply chain activities. The first group is who we'll call the collectors. These are the people that manage the order management process, wherein they collect all orders and manage the pooling process in terms of grouping items together into single large bulk orders. The second group are the facilitators. This is the group that will then look at the bulk order list, match the order list with possible suppliers, and facilitate the bidding process from suppliers, in terms of the prices they are willing to offer for the bulk orders. This process also includes grouping suppliers, in instances where the given supplier cannot meet the full order, and syncing the price offers into a price that is highly competitive, including assessing whether there's room for a markup, which essentially means that worthwhile economies of scale benefit can be derived at a markup that meets the supplier's desired price point. The third group are the fulfillers. Here the process involves working out how to, firstly, communicate the quantity of the ordered items into the separate, smaller, individual orders that make up the bulk order. Secondly, working out the logistics of getting items from the selected suppliers, collection and timing-wise, and lastly, delivering the various orders to the various customers who made the orders. This group has to make sure that the suppliers size and package the orders correctly. At the end of the day, the best order pooling composition will be one that achieves the best economies of scale benefits, and that might not necessarily be super convenient in terms of the mix of orders that made up the said best order pooling composition. The next group are the dispensers. They actually execute the logistics, in terms of collecting the orders on the fulfillment plan from the suppliers, and delivering them to customers, including managing governance in terms of the entire logistics process from supplier collections to customer deliveries. They effectively execute on the fulfillment plan put into motion by the fulfillers and manage the actual nitty-gritties of making sure that fulfillment plan is executed to the T. The last group are the friendlies. They deal with sales and customer management, including all the necessary customer engagement, both inbound and outbound. They are the front-line customer touchpoint for anything that involves customer management and engagement, and are fully responsible for managing customer experience, ensuring that anything that is done, from collecting and facilitating to fulfilling and dispensing, is done with the customer top of mind. The friendlies have a very close relationship with the sales and business development teams. So in terms of the supply chain process, the overall high-level plan sits with the facilitators, because they have a sort of bird's-eye view of what's happening on both sides of the equation. They do so with a lot of input from the collectors. The sourcing from suppliers is also done by the facilitators, strongly supported by, mainly, the fulfillers, as well as some input from the collectors. The suppliers are obviously the producers of all items required, while the deliver process is fully managed by the dispensers, with significant input from the fulfillers. The recover process, which in this case involves a lot of nuances in terms of governance of this process, especially considering we're dealing with food items, is managed by the friendlies.